My wife engaged in an affair with another individual despite our strong and harmonious marriage, during which we were raising 3 children together. However, upon discovering this, I reacted in a way that also caught my wife off guard. So let's begin. I go by the name Oliver. I hold the position of an accountant within a bank. My life was progressing smoothly, and I believed that I had made significant strides in bettering my circumstances. Kendall was my wife's name, and together, we were raising 2 daughters and a son. My days were occupied by work, and I would be away from home from morning until night. I dedicated myself tirelessly to provide for my children, aiming to spare them the hardships that life had dealt me when my own father left my mother while I was still in her womb. During the time I was in my mother's womb, and throughout my early years, she worked various odd jobs to make ends meet. However, her circumstances changed after I was born, and she managed to secure a stable and respectable position. Despite facing numerous challenges, she successfully raised me. Regrettably, my mother is no longer with us today, but the valuable lessons and guidance she provided have been instrumental in helping me navigate through the tough experiences. As you have often reminded me, I came to recognize that achieving a comfortable life in this world necessitates diligent effort, financial stability, and a reputable occupation. Consequently, I devoted myself tirelessly to support my child and wife. While my wife used to be employed in the past, her role has now shifted to full-time caregiving for our children. She excels as an exceptional partner, dedicating her entire day to the well-being of our children. She always ensured that everything our children needed was created at home, never relying on external sources. However, over time, her enthusiasm for managing the household began to wane, perhaps due to exhaustion. I gently suggested the idea of hiring some assistance for her, understanding just how extensively she had toiled over the past years. Maintaining a close connection with our children left us with minimal time to spare, and managing the demands of 3 kids simultaneously proved to be quite challenging. Despite my inability to afford household help, I engaged in conversations with my wife to maintain our understanding. During one such conversation, I proposed the idea of hiring assistance, and she responded positively, acknowledging the suggestion as a viable one. She agreed to continue handling the household chores, provided I arranged for assistance in caring for the children. I responded, "Sure, if that's what you prefer, I'm open to the idea." In our vicinity, a new family had recently moved into the house adjacent to ours. A man and his mother had taken up residence there, and they exhibited pleasant qualities. We had the opportunity to meet them, and they even brought a cake as a gesture of goodwill. I said that is good for us. The newcomers in our neighborhood proved to be quite amicable, which was consistent with the general atmosphere of camaraderie in our residential area. Our neighbor, named Michael, was a college student, and his mother held a job in an office. Given the friendly nature of our community, interactions and socializing among the residents were common. There were instances when I would be leaving my home at the same time as they were heading to their respective workplaces. Consequently, we exchanged waves and engaged in brief conversations during these encounters. Recognizing the benefits of assistance, I arranged for a domestic helper to ease my wife's workload. With their support, her responsibilities significantly decreased, and our new neighbor's contribution also played a part. We collaborated on household chores, such as laundry, and with the arrival of the helper, tasks like teaching the children, preparing their lunch boxes, breakfast, and bathing duties were efficiently managed by the hired assistant. My wife's responsibilities were now primarily centered around certain household tasks and cooking, thanks to the additional help. To further ease her burden, I proposed a solution. I suggested that she need not prepare lunch for me, and I could have something at the office instead. This arrangement would also save on expenses, as buying lunch at the office cost around $8 daily. Despite the adjustment, I refrained from expressing any complaints to my wife. Nevertheless, my wife seemed to be preoccupied with something. There was a particular day when she stood before the mirror, gently touching her abdomen and observing it closely. The aftermath of giving birth to our 3 children had left marks on her stomach, and her skin had started to sag. It was apparent that she hadn't engaged in regular exercise for a considerable period. She voiced her concerns, asking, "Do you remember what I looked like when we first met? Did my stomach resemble this?" Reflecting on our high school days, she reminded me of a time when she was in great shape and radiantly beautiful. I comforted her by reminding her that she had given me 3 wonderful children. "If you exercise, everything can improve," I suggested. She responded by mentioning that she even tried fasting, but it didn't yield the desired results. I reassured her, emphasizing that she remains beautiful in my eyes and will always be so. However, it seemed that her own body image wasn't aligning with that perception, leading her to express these concerns. I came to realize that such changes are natural since childbirth can alter a woman's body. Trying to offer a solution, I mentioned that I could get her a treadmill if she was interested in exercising at home. She responded positively, expressing her openness to the idea. However, the thought of this endeavor weighed on my mind because it could potentially strain my monthly budget if I were to proceed with the purchase. Nonetheless, I managed to acquire a high-quality machine and presented it to my wife. The contraption, being electric, generated quite a bit of noise during operation. I advised her to exercise when the rest of the household was awake to avoid any disturbances. However, an unusual occurrence transpired just 2 days after the machine's introduction. Abruptly, I woke up and found that my wife was absent from the bed. Usually I held her close while sleeping, but as I reached out, I encountered an empty space. Noticing her absence even in the bathroom, I became concerned and started searching for her. Descending the stairs, I spotted a figure. In a startled voice, I called out my wife's name. She appeared before me, drenched in sweat. Alarmed, I inquired, "What's going on? Why are you up at 2 in the morning? You should be resting." I noticed her heavy breathing and asked, "Why are you so sweaty? And why are you breathing so heavily?" I couldn't help but realize the underlying reason for her rapid breaths. She made an attempt to speak but faltered, lost in thought. After a moment of contemplation, she disclosed that she had been using the treadmill for her workout. Puzzled, I asked her about the time. She admitted that she couldn't sleep and had been plagued by feelings of guilt about potential weight gain. Consequently, she resorted to working out in the middle of the night. I embraced my wife tightly, reassuring her that she was perfectly fine and not overweight at all. I encouraged her not to dwell on such thoughts. "Just go to sleep," I reassured her. She mentioned wanting to take a shower due to her heavy perspiration. I responded, "Sure, take a refreshing shower and then get some rest." However, a puzzling aspect remained. I couldn't comprehend why I hadn't heard the familiar noise of the electric treadmill, which typically produced quite a racket. It struck me as odd since my wife had mentioned using the treadmill that night. Adding to my confusion, she wasn't dressed in workout attire, and I hadn't heard the machine running either. During a regular workday at the office, I learned that all the shopping malls across the city were unexpectedly closed. I didn't dwell on it too much, assuming such things can occur from time to time. In any case, I didn't have any urgent shopping to do for the household that day. However, upon returning home, I discovered that my wife was not present. The maid informed me that my wife had fed and put the children to bed. Inquiring about my wife's whereabouts, the maid began recounting that earlier in the day, my wife had mentioned she intended to go shopping. I had initially assumed it was a routine shopping trip, not thinking much of it. However, today was an exception with the closure of most malls. There was a sizable shopping mall near our house. conveniently located nearby. I wondered why she hadn't returned yet, considering she must have been aware of the mall closures. I pondered what she might be doing in the meantime. I tried to reach my wife by phone, but she wasn't answering her calls. After my third attempt, she abruptly turned off her phone. When my wife eventually returned, she was carrying numerous shopping bags. Baffled, I asked her, "Where did you go?" She responded, "Can't you see? I went shopping." She appeared quite puzzled, you know. So seeking clarity, I asked, "Where exactly did you go?" She explained, "I went shopping with my friend. It's been a while since I went out with friends. I had stopped doing that, but I really enjoyed spending time with them today." I replied, "That's great to hear. But why did you turn off your phone when I called?" I asked my wife. She quickly responded, "I didn't turn it off. It just powered off on its own." Concerned about my wife's recent distance, I confided in a friend. He pointed out that my busy schedule, juggling multiple tasks, might be contributing to my wife's feelings of detachment. Plan a weekend outing with your wife. Do you remember the last time you surprised her with flowers? I can't recall the last time I surprised my wife either. However, when I informed her that we're going out today, she responded that she's not in the mood and has a bad headache. I assumed she would be delighted about our plans to go out, but she declined. Another incident followed where my wife wasn't by my side. Our children were asleep in the room, but my wife was absent from the bed. This occurrence deeply affected me, leaving me feeling disheartened. I made my way downstairs and decided to step outside. I called out my wife's name, but I couldn't fully grasp the situation at first. To my disbelief, I witnessed my wife engaged in intimate relations with our neighbor on the sofa in our own living room, right in our house. And the sight left me utterly shocked and stunned. They both were shocked to see me, prompting me to hastily retreat to my room and lock the door. I was very nervous and very angry. Soon after, my wife arrived outside the door, urgently knocking and pleading, "I'm sorry. Let me explain everything." Despite her pleas, I remained silent, unwilling to engage in conversation with her. Her actions had left me realizing that she had been engaging in similar behavior on that day as well. Since Michael moved in next door, my wife's demeanor had undergone a transformation. She had become involved in a romantic relationship with a young man and seemed to have disregarded our own family. We have 3 wonderful children together. It dawned on me that on the day she purportedly went shopping, she had actually been spending time with Michael. A while later, I heard a voice. It was Michael. He reassured me that their relationship wasn't something of great significance. He claimed they were just having a casual time together, and he had no intentions of taking my wife away from me. He disclosed his plan to study in aita, indicating that their involvement was only temporary. It appeared that perhaps he and my wife had already discussed the nature of their relationship, understanding that they weren't seriously committed to each other. My wife's betrayal and deception have left me shattered, and I no longer wish to continue our relationship. I made the difficult decision to separate from her and initiated divorce proceedings, which are currently underway. Despite her remorse and desire to reconcile, I have come to terms with the situation. I know that I treated her with care and did nothing to warrant this betrayal. I did everything within my capacity to support and care for my wife. I did everything as children are old enough now to decide for themselves whether they wish to reside with their mother or father. But I saw her in love with someone else, so I can never be with her again. Forgiveness is beyond my reach, and it's clear that it's in the best interest of both of us to part ways permanently. At present, we are living apart, and I believe that this separation is the most suitable course of action. I held deep affection for my wife, yet it was clear that she didn't value my love. She betrayed the prosperity of our life together and our future. Consequently, I will not care for her either. Thank you for listening to the story to the end. And if you like it, please support us with a like as well as subscribe to our channel. Write in the comments what you think about the story.